Hi there, I'm your host June Mack, and you're listening to the Little Psychic Podcast, the podcast with easy to understand, fun and down-to-earth spiritual learning which awakens in you the infinite intuitive power we all hold within. Little Psychic, I hope to ignite, nurture and drive your own psychic expansion. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Little Psychic Podcast. I'm your host, June Mack, and I'm here to guide you through every stage of your spiritual journey. Whether you're just awakening your intuitive gifts, refining your power as a light worker, or stepping into the role of a spiritual entrepreneur. Join me as we awaken your intuition and help you step into and create a booked-out business of impact. This episode features the incredible Breeanna Kay business alignment and manifestation coach. Together we explore the power of soul contracts, uncovering your unique purpose, and how aligning with it can lead to deep fulfillment, happiness, healing, abundance, and transformation.
Hello and welcome to the Little Psychic Podcast. I'm super excited to have you all listening here today because I am talking with a very special guest, Breeanna Kay or Bree, who is the host of the Rebel CEO podcast and is also a business alignment and manifestation coach. So welcome, Bree. So excited to have you.
Hey, June. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on your show and just to talk with you again.
Yes, so I was going to quickly talk about as well how we sort of connected. But before we do that, did you want to say first where you were from and then what it is that you do? Because I have interviewed someone who was also from the US the other week, but your episode is actually going to come out before hers. So you're technically my first US guest that's going to be on the podcast. Whereabouts are you from and what is it that you do, Bree?
Yeah, so I'm from the US, like you said. If anybody's familiar with the US listening to your podcast, I don't know if you have the majority of your listeners in Australia or over this way, but I'm technically on the Wisconsin side of the Wisconsin-Minnesota border. So if you're not super familiar with the states, if you look at the map of the US, I'm like central and way up north.
Okay, cool.
And
I'm not, but I'll look it up.
yeah, yeah, I feel like most people from other countries probably don't really pay much attention to Minnesota or Wisconsin. They probably know like California and New York. So I usually just like to point out kind of where it is on the map for you guys too. But then what I do also, like you already said, I'm a business alignment coach and a manifestation coach. So I do holistic life and business coaching with my clients. So instead of just looking at like the masculine strategy of business, I look at the masculine strategy of business, but also the feminine of like mindset, energetics, manifestation, more like spiritual topics, I guess,
Yeah.
or things in that realm. And I like to combine the two together through one-on-one coaching or through online programs.
I love that. It's very much right up my alley and very similar in alignment to what it is that I do. And it's so funny how we connected. It's been happening a lot lately, but it was literally, it's basically the same way that I connected with a few of, these other people that I absolutely vibe with, which is literally scrolling through social media. And I call it when spirit snags you or they like get your attention and they're like, wait, stop, like, look at this person. And I just knew I had to apply to speak on your podcast. So if you haven't already listened to my episode on the Rebel CEO podcast, go and find it. I can't remember what number it is, but you'll see my name next to it anyway. And it wasn't until I really was on your podcast that I truly understood how much we were on a similar vibe in terms of the messages that we wanted to get across, and in terms of our story and in terms of what it is that we want to do. So I absolutely love your work, and I'm actually super excited to have Bree on today. We're going to be talking a little bit about soul purpose or soul contracts in today's episode, which has been a topic that has been requested by a few listeners. So I'm really excited to get both of our takes on it. And I have heard Breeanna's take on it before and absolutely love how you explained it. But before we get into that, I sort of wanted to hear a little bit about your story, because you do have quite a unique story as to where you were, and then you unfortunately went through a loss and it sort of spun you then in a different direction. So I kind of want to hear a little bit about that, or the listeners would want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually probably going to backtrack further than you even think that I'm going to backtrack here, because I feel like, well, we're talking about like soul contracts and kind of my spiritual awakening. It it didn't, I shouldn't say start, it didn't start back then, but looking back, there were all of these little pieces that kind of tie into my story. So growing up, I feel like I always had a very external focus. So like I don't know that I really did the work to or knew to develop like who I was internally. I just kind of lived for the validation from my peers or for what people thought on social media or trying to look cool or be cool, which, like, full disclosure, I don't think I ever really succeeded in,
No,
but I
I
sure
think you're
tried and I
cool.
sure cared. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think you're pretty cool too. So, I lived just like a lot for the external world, including when I was at the age where like you apply for colleges. So I went to college because that's just what you do if you want to be quote unquote successful. And looking back at that age, if I would have like actually considered doing what I felt the most called to do, I probably would have ended up in a interior design field or something that was a little bit more creative, not like painting art class creative, but still in that realm. But instead, I went to school for social work and then I ended up transferring to accounting. And then when I was in my early 20s, I actually was working in an accounting office and I didn't mind the work, but I decided that I didn't love the rigidity of a corporate office and like the passive aggressive emails and all of that stuff. If you've ever worked in a corporate office, you might be familiar.
Yes.
So yeah, so I don't even know what happened because I'm like super reliable and a very good worker. And just one day I was like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to move back across the country because I was out west at the time, back to my hometown, and I'm going to build my photography portfolio because I already know that I love photography. So I just kind of was like, my life isn't working for me, and I feel like there's so much more out there. And this is supposed to be like, you go to school, you get this office job, and then you're fulfilled, you're happy, but I wasn't. I just kind of felt trapped there. So I spontaneously quit my job, moved back across the country, and I started my photography business. So that was 10 years ago. And then I ended up scaling that business to six figures, and I ended up having a lot of hustle culture and a lot of burnout in my life around maybe like the 5 year mark, which is also when I lost my sister, which is I think the story that you were mentioning
Yeah.
earlier.
I'm
And
so sorry to hear that as well.
yeah, thank you. So we obviously our worlds were pretty shaken up when we lost her. So she was actually killed by her ex-boyfriend. So
Oh my
not only
gosh.
was she young and it was unexpected, but it was also just like this very, very traumatic death.
So
And it
traumatic.
just, yeah, it just kind of took all of our worlds and shook them up. And that is the start of when I began to open my eyes to the more spiritual side of things. And I feel like at that point, I was kind of faced with like, this can destroy you and it can
Mhm.
ruin your life, or you can grow from it and become an even better, more evolved human being. So you can either choose to take this and learn what you can from it, or it's like going to destroy you. So I chose to kind of take that opportunity to redefine like what I believe happens after death and look more into different things aside from what I learned from religion growing up, and just kind of get my own viewpoints on some of those things. And right away, we were lucky enough to get like a bunch of signs from heaven and just like very clear signs that my sister was trying to speak with us, which made it easy to believe that like there is more out there and her soul's still out there. And a common theme that we heard a lot around that time was that what happened was, even though it sucked, it was probably a part of her soul contract. And having her loss in my life was probably a part of my soul contract that was meant to open up my eyes to something else that I needed in life. So that's kind of how soul contracts start to tie into this and kind of the beginnings of my spiritual journey.
Yeah, wow. That's an incredible story. I didn't realize the way that she had passed was, I mean, like in any passing really is so traumatic, but I feel like that adds like another layer on top of it. And I am so inspired, and I think it would be very inspiring for people to hear about the fact that you really could have, which fair enough, so fallen into that victim, mentality and, let that take a negative spin in your life, but really it's trajected you in a completely different reason. And it's it sounds weird, but it's actually sort of a common thing in the spiritual space that a lot of people who end up really down the spiritual rabbit hole do come from trauma, unfortunately. But it makes them understand that really there is so much more than, like you said, sort of working from external validation or doing what you think is right or what you've been conditioned to do, to actually then turn inwards and decide that, well, what do I want to do though? Like, what am I actually here for? So thank you so much for sharing that story. Your sister as well, in terms of the signs, just because obviously my audience is very spiritual. I mean, if they're listening to a psychic podcast, they're already believers. But would music be something to do with, or songs or something? Would that be something to do with some of the signs that your sister would send you? Just because I know they would want to know what has she been sending you?
Yeah, yeah. So, have I already told you this? When you said that, I was like, I wonder if I told you and
I
that's how
can't
you knew, or
remember.
was it just a
I
okay.
possibly.
Okay, yeah. So like I'll give you because the first one is kind of cool too, but the first one isn't music, but music's like my main sign from her, and I'll
Okay.
share a little bit about that because it's actually really cool. And my sister was very spiritual, and she would
Wow.
talk about stuff, and I'd be like, man, she's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit, right? Because I
We all have.
was yeah, I was not in that world at all yet, and I was like, she was talking about how her body, she thinks it can heal itself. She just needs to figure out how. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, sure. So, yeah, she was very spiritual, and I think that contributes to like why we got or get so many signs from her. But the first one that happened was literally the day of her funeral, so like a week after her passing. So, or I should say, like the first undeniable one. So this one, I went with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, to go get an outfit for him to wear for the funeral the next day. And we were in the store, and he made a joke because I'd been wanting to get engaged about like he picked up one of the rings and was like, "Look, we can get this." I think he was just trying to make me like feel better. And and I was like, honestly, I think right now I would rather wait. Like, not that he was going to propose then and there, but like just in life, it doesn't feel right now. Like, I think I would
Okay.
rather just like wait this out. Um, and the next day at her funeral, somebody came up to me who shouldn't have known really anything about what was going on in our lives. And she said, I keep seeing this sign from Audra. It's a ring on a left hand. She's like, I don't know what this means, blah, 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 whatever. And we kind of just like brushed her off. And then she came back up later and she's like, she doesn't want you to wait. And I was like,
Oh,
that's so ironic because literally just yesterday I said, I want to wait.
oh, I have chills.
So that was the first like undeniable and like very clear like this is Audra saying this. So
Mm,
Audra is my sister's name if you didn't gather that.
no. Yeah.
I realized I didn't say it, but I was like, you probably understood that.
Yes, I got it. I
Okay.
got the story.
And then yeah, my main sign from her or like the sign that I there have been some other random ones, but like the sign that I get from her is definitely music. So I said that I was in the wedding photography industry
Yes.
and I I'm a chronic workaholic and I'm trying to reform that so hard, but like I chose to not get rid of my weddings after she passed because there was nothing that I could do to change what happened.
Yeah.
And that mixed with the the impact that it would have had on me financially to cover all of those weddings, and just knowing that if I put myself in a place that's more happy, like with people who
Mm.
don't necessarily know this like huge traumatic thing just happened, then it would just kind of give me a chance to like escape and be happy for somebody genuinely for a day too.
Yeah.
So the weekend after she actually, hold on, it was a few days after she passed. So that the funeral one wasn't actually the first one. So it was a few days. Sorry, I'm really bad at telling stories, so bear
No,
with
you're
me
not.
here. A few days after she passed, I shot my first wedding and afterwards, and then she had written a letter because her and my mom and my other sister, they just like wrote down their funeral wishes randomly. It wasn't like a letter knowing she would die. It was like, if I die, put my ashes in a tree, and here are the songs that I want at my funeral.
Wow.
And one of them was the ukulele version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Oh.
So at that first wedding, I don't know if your weddings are the same in Australia, but they usually do like a couple's first dance and then a mother, son, and a father, daughter dance.
Yeah.
So instead of doing the mother, son, father, daughter dance, my couple did a combined family dance. And the song that they danced to was the ukulele version of Somewhere Over the
Oh,
Rainbow.
of
So
course.
I was so good the rest of the day. Like I had somebody come with so I could step out if I had to. But that came on like right before I was supposed to go, and I was like, no way. Like is that I like went up to the couple afterwards and I was like, was that the ukulele version? Because I hadn't listened to it yet. Like I hadn't looked it up, and they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's so cool. And then for years and years and years at weddings and when I travel, I would get her funeral songs.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? The synchronicities are just incredible. Like that's
Mm.
definitely, not that's definitely not a coincidence. That's for sure a synchronicity. That's insane. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I love that. So in regards to, you were talking about how you sort of got tied up or wanting to understand in regards to soul contracts or soul purpose. What what is probably the easiest way for you or from your perspective to explain to other people what your understanding is of someone's purpose? Because there's a lot of different people have a lot of different ideas. So I just want to hear your perspective in regards to that.
Yeah. So, purpose, I think that you can have many different purposes and they can all coexist at the same time. And I do think that some purposes can also come in for parts of your life and
Hmm.
kind of be phased out through different parts also. So, in my mind, a purpose is going to be something that fulfills what you came to this earth to do. And it's something that you either wanted to accomplish, learn, contribute, or experience. And I like to think that most purposes are either going to help, most if not all, are either going to help the collective in some way or that individual or both. And I think that purpose is also going to be something that helps you step into your highest self. So,
Yeah.
it's like,
Um, so I feel that exactly the same way, and the way that I probably understand it as well, or my understanding, a lot of people think, or they sort of say to me, like what's my purpose in during readings, and they think that it's something like, oh, your purpose is to be, a manager at a restaurant or something like that. They think it's something very specific. Whereas my understanding of what it is, like you said, you can have many different purposes. And for me, it's very loosely intertwined. So I know, for example, for one of my purposes here this time around is to experience authenticity or being authentic to myself. So I know that when I really started feeling the happiest was when I came out and was just like, hey, I talk to dead people. And I really, love this spiritual space, and I was just open with that, whereas I'd tried to keep that to myself my whole life. Previously only my close friends and family knew about that, but I would never talk about that on the forefront because I was afraid of judgment. But when I stepped into that, oh my goodness, like the change in the way that I felt, it just felt so right. So that's an example of one. I know that I'm here to experience happiness or extreme bliss and happiness in this lifetime because as someone who sees past lives, I know that I have experienced a lot of pretty effed up lives. I'm like, why are you always showing me these terrible lives that I've been through? Is because this time it's not for my learning to go through that. It's like I deserve to have bliss and happiness in this lifetime. So there's like all these, I know that I'm here to teach. I know that I'm here to express myself, but it's funny because we get to choose also how we pull these things together. It's like a co-creation of how we want to experience, our purposes or whatever. So for me, it's more like a loosely intertwined thing that's more broad. It's not like a super specific, like you are here to be a nurse, for example, whereas in your contract or soul purpose, you could be here to heal other people. So you could express that in multiple different ways, because a healer is a nurse, is a doctor, is a counselor, is an energy healer, a holistic counselor, whatever. There's so many different versions of a healer. You get to sort of choose how you do that. So I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't really know. If it makes
Yeah,
sense
that
right
100
there.
that yep, that 100% makes sense, and I am totally with you on that because I feel like there are so many different ways. Like I could do so many other things besides what I'm doing and probably feel equally as fulfilled as long as they met
Yes.
kind of certain things that I need in my life.
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining it. I love the way that you've said that. And for someone who I guess wants to connect with what their purpose is, because a lot of people, especially when they first start coming to see me, like say for readings, for example, they feel very disconnected. And then a lot of the time people come to me because they feel lost. Like they just are like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, why am I here? Like, what am I here for? And for people who you don't need external validation to, understand your purpose or know what it is you're here to do. So did you have any tips for people who would like to know or connect with what their purpose is?
Yeah, so first I want to say that I didn't start looking into like actually trying to discover my soul purpose at all until recently. So I think that for people, you naturally are going to get pushed in the direction of your soul purpose if you are in alignment. If you're not fighting it, you'll see little like breadcrumbs or little synchronicities or signs or just your interests and hobbies. I feel like will naturally start guiding you in the direction of your soul purpose if you're paying attention to it. So, to intentionally connect with your soul purpose, I would recommend spending time alone. So, like without social media, without other people, and just getting really used to like who you are, what your energy is like, what you want, what your thoughts are, and what's kind of been programmed into you from society or from other people that aren't actually yours. Because you'll be able to weed out some of the things that you feel like you have to do, but you don't actually want to do.
Yeah.
Um, I would also really make a point to stop worrying about what other people think because for me and for you, part of our soul purpose is to get out there and share our knowledge with people and teach people and kind of open up their eyes to other thoughts and other ways of doing things, I think. And if we stayed in this state of being like, what's this girl from high school going to think about me? Or what if I look stupid? Or what if I'm not qualified? Then we would never actually get to that point because we would kind of block ourselves from reaching the level that we feel like our souls were made to reach. So yeah, so start following those signs, synchronicities, and like get really clear on who you are and what you want.
Yeah, I love that piece of advice too, is to stop thinking about what others think. And it's easier said than done, I know, because I've been through many layers of this as well. But sort of what I say to a lot of my clients as well is, we put so much emphasis on what others think when a lot of the time it's never as bad as what we're thinking. Like we think, oh my gosh, like I used to think, oh, there's an I Hate June club like somewhere and they're all gathering together and talking about the annoyingness of me and whatever that they've seen. But it's like, really, in all honesty, I'm a blip in their existence, right? It's like, oh, there's that person that, maybe it triggers them and then they'll scroll past it. And there's no point changing or like, not having happiness because of someone's like 2 seconds worth of judgment. It's like, why would you do that? You know, that's just giving them,
Yeah.
that's just, it's hurting you. It's not hurting, it's not helping anybody else. But for my advice, I suppose, in terms of connecting with your purpose, if you are feeling like you don't know what that is, or you're feeling quite lost. And I know what that feels like, because that was me for a long time, until I, finally opened up into this space, I suppose. Is take notice of where your passions are. And you might think like, oh, but I'm, like you, I'm very creative, and, my passions are in that. But like, how does that connect to my soul purpose? It will have something to do with it. Like, trust me, like that will tie in somewhere. But the more that you do the things that you are passionate about, and the things that do light you up, it actually acts as like a kind of like a snowball effect, where because you've done that, and because that makes you happy, and because that lights you up, it then connects you on to the next thing, that makes you happy, that lights you up. And then you do more of that and more of that. And it actually puts you more in touch with your intuition, because you're vibrating at a higher level when you're actually doing the things that make you happy, that make you passionate. And then all of a sudden you figured it out. So it's like, pay attention and do more of the things that make you excited. Anything that you think about when you're a kid. So now that I've sort of, I'm stepping into doing the things that I know I was meant to do. When I think back to being a child, I remember having a blackboard and drawing on it and being super bossy, and like and like showing, and like, kids, I'm trying to teach you something, like watch me drawing on this blackboard, like I wanted to be a teacher. So I would like pretend, because all my aunties are teachers, but like actually in the educational space. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to stand in front of people and I want to teach them things. So I remember that memory is like stuck in my mind now. I remember going to like spiritual festivals and fates with my dad, and just looking at the people that were doing platform readings and going, I want to be that person. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine like being able to stand up there and then like, just have psychic information to tell people? I was just like, these are the coolest people ever. But my mind would have never fathomed like that can be you. I would have never connected the dots. So it's just funny, like when you go back and you think about these things that made you super excited when you were younger, like watching John Edwards, Alison Dubois, like watching the show Medium, even. I was just like, all those things that connect you and excite you, there's probably something to those things. So really, excitement, passion, anything that lights you up would be my tips there. And in regards to, we were talking about soul contracts. How is a way that you would describe what a soul contract is?
Okay, so I'm going to give you two different ways. So the first way is kind of the way that I touched on earlier. It's like the idea that you choose all of these things before you come into this life. So you maybe choose your birth time, you choose the challenges you want to go through, you choose the struggles, the experiences, you choose what you want to contribute to either the people around you or the collective, in what ways your soul wants to grow in this lifetime. And the the idea behind like the soul contract work that I do is that you're choosing your name, you're choosing your exact birth time, birth location, and all of that literally leaves like a blueprint in your astrology and like these things that we use as different tools and different modalities, I think would be a word for it too.
Yes.
So, like astrology, numerology, human design. So, you're choosing these before you come into this earth, but because we have these tools to use, it literally leaves a blueprint of some of these qualities and like I said, challenges, experiences, all of the above that you wanted to accomplish in this lifetime before you even came down here. So that's kind of like the more spiritual side of it and then the more tangible side of it, if that makes sense.
Yep. And I love how, so for me, like when I'm doing readings for someone, like bits and pieces of their soul contract will come through, like around, who you have people that you're supposed to connect with that are literally part of your soul contract. Is like, you are here to learn from each other, or you're here to help guide each other, or you're here to learn together. Your children, obviously, like those people that you're all sort of contracted, or part of your soul family who you continue to incarnate with. And then those parts that you said, but I love how you are able to extract out the tangible pieces of someone's soul contract, and then actually give them those bits. Like, I loved that. Because and so I'm going to I don't remember what point, but read you part of mine that you pulled out for me, that I absolutely loved and completely resonated with it. So for me, in regards to soul contracts too, so that is the reason. So this, if you link it all up, but because you have a soul contract or something that you said, okay, I'm here, like for example, when I explained about actually being authentic in this lifetime, because I had many lifetimes where I had to repress who I was, and I wasn't able to live authentically to myself. So my soul said, okay, so this time around you want what the way you're going to feel the best is if you come down and you are actually very true to who it is that you are. And when you actually do these things that are part of your soul contract, we literally have this internal navigation system, or your spirit guides or angels, or your loved ones, that try to give you all the signs and feelings that you're on the right track. Like, this is what you came here to do. So that's why you feel so good when you actually get to express yourself, or you are doing things that are in or connected in with your soul purpose or your soul contract. So the thing is that just so many of us forget how to connect with the signs, and it's very different for each individual person as to how you're going to feel when you are doing something that is connected in with your soul purpose or your soul contract. But for me, it's like literal excitement. I feel it in my belly. Like last night I was listening to this podcast about Atlantis or Atlanteans, and I obviously resonated with that. So that's a whole nother
Wait, do
um
you have a past life in Atlantis?
rabbit. Yes, many.
Okay. All right. Wait. So I was getting Reiki, and the lady goes, "Oh, I think you had a past life in Atlantis. So what are the
Stop.
chances we go way
Oh my
back?"
gosh. Probably. Like, I just got chills. I would say so. I'll have a think about that later. But as I'm listening to it, my heart was literally like skipping beats. Like, because it's like a whole body, like, remembrance or resonance. Like, I'm listening to it, and my heart, I could feel it just going really fast. And my stomach sort of starts this like excitement tingling. And I just was like so lit up by listening to this. I'll send it to you afterwards.
Yeah, I would love that.
Because I was like, oh my gosh, like this just makes so much sense to me. But in terms of how connecting with yours has changed your life for the positive, because I want this to also help people to understand, like, if they connect with their own, how this helps them for the positive. What would you say? Like, how has this transformed your life?
Yeah, so I started to like put the idea of soul contracts together into a tangible format because I started noticing the similarities between my astrology, my numerology, and my human design. So when I see that something is in like multiple of these systems and just keeps showing up, it's like, why are they so similar when they're totally different? So something that comes up in all of them is leadership. And leadership is not something that I would have resonated with until maybe a couple years ago, maybe not even a couple of years ago. And it would be something that like I would have looked at and been like, I'm a follower. Like I literally used to say, I'm a follower, not a leader, because I never wanted to like be the person leading. But then when I started looking into all of this, I was at the point where I had launched my podcast and started to try to like put myself out there and actually lead a community. So at the point where I discovered this showing up in all of these different systems, I had began to step into that role, but I hadn't fully like maybe committed as much as I could. So when I saw leadership in there so many times, then that kind of gave me the confidence that like, yes, I am on the right path. I'm not this insane girl who's just like randomly trying to put things out into the world that isn't wanted. Like I'm literally supposed to be doing this. So, like I said, it gave me the confidence to like show up even more strongly and even with even less like fear, I guess, because it
Yeah.
feels like this is what I'm meant to do. Like this is what I'm supposed to do for myself and for other people to make this world a better place. Uh,
Mhm.
and then also in my soul contract, I have a lot of creativity, which isn't surprising because I was in the photo industry, but it's something that I need to remember to tie in the industry that I am pivoting into now. So the more like coaching space, and
Yes.
there's a lot of spirituality. So just knowing that I need to tie in these different pieces that fulfill me in different ways and like bring creativity into my programs or into my podcast, and then that the spiritual side of things I am able to tie in with business and have it be like something that's maybe a little bit unorthodox, but it is something that's true to who I am. It's not just like out of the blue. It just, again, gives you that confidence and that reassurance that like you're on the right track. And if you're not on the right track, it can be confirmation that maybe you should pivot in a different area.
Mm. And this is something like really exciting. I feel like this is a new way of business that is emerging. It's not just like business as in like, I have a $2 shop, or I run, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not business in that way. It's like showing how your business can literally be a true expression of who you are as a person. It's like almost something that you've created, and it's so uniquely yours that you're able to express in that way. So that is the true like definition of creativity. So it's funny how you kept mentioning creativity, and I also have a lot of creativity. I know in so my soul path number, life number as well, is 3, and that's a lot to do around creating. And I'm creative, not in like the drawing sense. I always thought I'm not creative because I cannot draw for the life of me. Like my kids always ask me to draw, and it's like all stick, um, people.
Yeah.
But I love creating in my business. So I notice the times that I get bored is when I'm not creating something new. So creating a new program, or creating, like you said, podcast episodes, or creating like graphics. I actually had someone do my graphics for a bit, and I was like, I can't have you do it, because I just actually really enjoy that piece, and they couldn't express me in the way that I could express me. So I'm just like, no, I have to take back over it, because I just kept editing theirs like way over. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I paying this person when I just keep taking over it? So I love it how, you've tied all of that in. And it's really interesting. And I love it how you said as well that you had this belief system that you weren't a leader. And it's just interesting to think, well, where did that belief come from? Because these are things that are part of our human conditioning that we don't realize get ingrained in there somehow. But where did that come from? Because that's not true. And having, pieces of your soul contract, or tangible pieces, or understanding parts of your contract or your purpose, it makes you actually, because as humans, sometimes we crave that actual, but where's the proof? Which, really there's a lot of things we can't get proof for, but sometimes we want that. And it's just something to push you out of that belief and to go, actually, I'm going to take that belief off and put my new one in, where I actually am a leader. Because when I do readings for people, I can feel your soul. It sounds so weird and bizarre, but I can feel who you are as a person, or what it is that you are capable of. And I can see, like, feel that in you, maybe perhaps the leadership or the entrepreneurial side of you. And sometimes, like, when it's mentioned, the person's not quite there yet. And it's really funny as to how they're like, oh no, like, really, me? Like, it's so easy for someone else to point it out, but then they can't believe it in themselves. But then it's interesting that later on, once they do a bit of work and healing around it, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I am a leader. Like, I am an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I can do this. I am a light leader. I am a light worker. I am intuitive. Like, people come to me and they go, I'm not intuitive. I'm like, yeah, but didn't this, and this happen? And they're like, oh yeah, maybe I am. Like, it's just
Yeah, I
crazy.
completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say as well, the part of the reason why I love how it is that you explain everything, but I'm also going to have Bree in Psychic School Elite. And she is going to be doing a masterclass on this. So this will be included for those of you that have already signed up. And for those of you that are interested, you can have a look at all the details again, junemac.com/psychic school elite. And as soon as I connected with you on your podcast, I knew I wanted you for the program. I was just like, just hold up, June. Like, um, easy does it. Like, you can't just go in there and just be like, hey, can you I don't even know you yet properly. I'm like, you better, I have a pretty good intuition, obviously, but I was like, you better just just have a little observe, just wait a minute, don't come on too strong. But it was so funny because I feel like both of us will come in on strong, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent
Anyway,
out an
anyway.
email to my email list and I was like, I forgot June was on my email list. And it was like my podcast episode of the week and then like a highlight, like special highlight of a podcast episode. And it was like I felt like we were instant friends. Like I felt so comfortable with her right away. And then June mentioned it to me and I was like, oh, did I come on too strong? Like, was it too much? Did I scare you? But I honestly, like, as soon as we got on the call, I was like, wait, I like this girl so much. And I definitely feel like we were meant to have this conversation, and like your message was so similar to stuff that I'd been working on. And it was just like, I don't know, kismet. People say kismet and it's a cute word, but I don't usually say it. So I'm gonna bust it out here. So yeah, it just felt like destined. And I definitely had the same feeling that you did about like, I feel like we're in each other's worlds for a reason, and maybe
Yeah.
it's to like collaborate on something.
Definitely. So I'm so excited to have you a part of Psychic School Elite and to be able to share what it is that you do so well within that group as well. But it's actually, I was on your email list because I fully stalked. So it's like that's that's why I was on there, because I was like, oh, I just want to, have a part of everything that it was that you were doing. And then I watched your masterclass, which, by the way, you can plug whatever you want at the end of this episode. But I was like, no, I need her. I need to. And what's funny, and I haven't told you this yet, but I'll tell you now just while. What is the word? Did you say kismet? I've never even heard of it.
Kismet, Kismet. I think it means like
Like cute.
destined or like,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
kind
I
of
thought it
like a
was like
cute
cute
word for
mix.
destined.
Yeah, okay, that's I've never heard of that before. But you were popping up in my dreams. So that's when
Oh,
yeah, when spirit guides are like, hello, hurry up, message this person, like just do the thing, stop holding off. And yeah, and it's not like, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. It's not like I'm walking around thinking about you, like you're not in my
I was gonna say, so
subconscious.
I'm the woman of your dreams.
Yeah. But when my spirit team are like, oh my gosh, like stop hanging on the edge of this, just do it already, is like they'll literally get my attention in my dreams because I'm not listening to my intuition, right? So you literally popped up
Mhm.
in my dream. Can't remember what it was about now, but I know that you were in it. So I was like, okay,
Okay,
I'll message
I
you.
love that. I'm a big fan of dreams too. I have like a weird
Ah,
relationship with dreams. Like it's a
yeah.
good one now, but I use dreams as a tool a lot for like connecting with my spirit guides and with like healing even. So,
Me too. And it's one of the first places where my abilities were very, very strong. So, yeah, I'm the same. So, in regards to talking about those tangible pieces of what it is that you do and how it is that you impact others, did you want to share a little part of yours that you've pulled just to show how it's like so in alignment of you?
yeah, absolutely. So, I took notes, and the notes on this might be a little bit scattered, so bear with me. So, the first thing that I wanted to pull up on here, because I don't think I sent you your Chiron, I think I sent you like some of the positive things in your soul contract and
Mm-hmm.
versus like wounds and whatnot, but
Oh, yeah, send me
you
that later,
can
please.
yeah, you're like, I'm curious. Your soul contract can tell you about different like karmas that you have in this life, and Chiron in astrology is like a wound that you have. I think it's like your core wound, if I'm remembering that correctly. So my Chiron is in Cancer in my second house, and that is a wound that's related to my sense of value, my self-worth, and material security. So essentially, it can manifest like differently in different people's lives and depending on what sign obviously your Chiron is in, but then also what house your Chiron is in. But for me, this has showed up as like worthiness wounds. So, like, for the longest time, I didn't feel like I was good enough or just enough in general or lovable or whatever it may be. And these are like beliefs that have, I've had different situations throughout life and not related to my family at all because I had a very loving, like, amazing family growing up, but just through different, like, situations with friends, like on the playground where I didn't feel like I had a place to fit in when I was in like first grade. My two best friends moved away, and then I like would bounce around from friend group to friend group and never really feel like I had a best friend for a year until my best friend moved to town. But then even with my best friend, this is like way back in elementary school still, every once in a while we'd like get in a fight and I would just feel like she didn't want to be my friend anymore and like you're just kids. It's it's not that serious, but it's these
Yeah.
wounds because your mind is still developing that just keep replaying over and over in life and like cementing this idea into your head, even if you don't believe it in your logical mind, like your subconscious holds on to it. So that's one of the ways that this Chiron wound has showed up for me. And then also in um, like financial security, like I don't feel very safe with money. So that's something that I've had to do a lot of work with because if you don't heal that, then you're going to just stay stuck in the same cycles. So I wanted to touch on Chiron and then I wanted to touch on, hold on, let me pull up because I have a different set of notes with some more. Okay, so I talked about how my soul contract says a lot about like me being a leader. So my life path in numerology is life path number 1. And it says that my mission is to lead the way, whether it's in business, relationships, or life. My path is about breaking new ground and carving my own destiny. So I'm born to rise, take charge, and show the world what's possible when you follow your intuition and your own power. So stepping into like my own intuition and instead of like listening to other people's all the time and just like trusting my own gut has been something that I've been working a lot with lately. And obviously, just like showing up on this podcast and instead of being like, oh, I hate public speaking and I'm terrified of it, just being like, no, I can do this because I'm like literally meant to do stuff like this and to put my word out to the world. So like it's fine. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be talking to you guys. I'm supposed to be talking with June and like not get too in my head about it.
Yeah.
Let's see what else good's in here. So, hold on, I'm gonna try to find you the good stuff. Okay, so my midheaven or midhaven, people pronounce it differently, is in Pisces, and that means that my career and my public life are tied to intuition, creativity, and a deep desire to make a meaningful impact on the world. So I might be drawn to artistic, spiritual, or healing professions where I can express my compassion and idealism. So this one has a lot to do with like creativity and spirituality, intuition, and I think it even ties in like teaching into this. So it's really
Mhm.
funny because I always say my photography business wasn't not in alignment, but it wasn't totally in alignment either. It was just
Mm.
missing some like key pieces that I feel like I evolved away from and like out of that field to pursue something that had a little bit more of everything that I'm needing in my soul
Yeah.
contract. And then I actually have, so I feel like I want you, because you're going to share pieces of yours too, right?
Yeah. Just a little. I'll share just a little bit.
Okay, so I feel like I want you to share yours and then I want to come back to in human design. Your purpose in human design is in your incarnation cross and I actually looked up yours because I didn't send it to you already and I
Oh,
wanted
cool.
to kind of compare like my incarnation cross and your incarnation cross a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. I like it how you said, like, your photography business was in alignment, but not fully, because I've done many businesses in the past. I've been an entrepreneur for, it was actually 9 years this year. And I've had other businesses which, still felt fulfilling at the time, but then it didn't hit all the pieces. So it kind of like, that's why I kept changing from one thing to another, because I was like slowly picking up and understanding more pieces of what, actually resonated with me and was uniquely my business. But for me, I just wanted to read a little bit of the part that you pulled on life purpose and career path, because I was just like, what? Like, how do you even pull this so specifically? And I love it how you use the different modalities to pull it together. But for me, it says this is a deeply spiritual and intuitive placement. I mean, like, you could have pulled anything from anywhere, but it's come through as this purpose involves working behind the scenes, healing or guiding others in ways that aren't always obvious or traditional. It also says they thrive when their work feels meaningful and provides deep emotional fulfillment, which is pretty much like any job that didn't fulfill me in that way, I would like just like cut it. And so soul urge number or master number, it says a natural spiritual teacher and visionary. They feel called to inspire and uplift others, often through intuitive gifts or profound wisdom. So that is pretty on point. And who they should be helping is another one as well. So who I should be helping: spiritual seekers and sensitive souls, creative entrepreneurs. Like what? Like we literally just spoke about all of this and I forgot that that was in there. And it's got here women as well, which if you look at my clientele, which I didn't do on purpose, it's literally like 95% female. People navigating trauma or emotional blocks, individuals seeking financial stability and purpose. Holy crap, I forgot that was in there as well, which is what we're talking about tonight. Best career paths. So for me, spiritual coach, therapist, or energy healer, transformational speaker, writer, or podcaster. I've done all of those things, which is exciting. Creative entrepreneur, astrologer, which I haven't looked into that yet, but intuitive guide or mentor, which I've literally, so intuitive guide and mentor are all the things that I've had in part of my job title before. And then the last part is like to do with philanthropy or nonprofit work, which I've also felt very passionate about in the past as well. So, or impact leadership. So all of that, just briefly pulling parts of it hugely resonated with me. And I was in shock really, because I was like, this makes so much sense. So what did you want to share about your, was it incarnation cross? I've heard about this before. I've had human design reading, so I'm interested.
Yeah, so I shared a little bit about astrology, numerology, and then I just wanted to tie in human design too, because I feel like all of them are just so beneficial and like they'll either hammer in the same point and it's like, wait, that's a point I should really pay attention to, or just like tie in something new or a different way that you can like operate in the world, which human design is really good at, or work with your own energy. So for human design, what they call your purpose is your incarnation cross. And your incarnation cross is, let's see, it's the right angle cross of service. And then mine is the left angle cross of spirit. So the interesting thing about mine versus yours is that your so you're right and I'm left. So the right angles are meant more. So hold on, I'm just going to read this because it's going to be able to say it better than I can. So it means that your service isn't about like the like bigger picture as much as it is about impacting the individual lives around you and creating that ripple effect from the individual lives, which I really liked for you because when you were telling me about your program, you said that you like to really cater the program to the people in it and
Mm.
you like to kind of like rely really heavily in that. And I felt like that was really a good match when I saw the difference between the right and the left angle. And for me, the left angle is more about like instead of being on my own personal journey, it's about healing the collective. So I'm meant to focus my work more on like the collective than myself and the individual. And you're meant to focus more on like yourself and the individual than the collective, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like part of what my program is it's a small group program because I like to be able to customize my coaching to suit whoever is in the program at the time. And that makes total sense because we were talking about the differences in how you like to run your program versus mine. And it makes,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that does, it
Yeah.
makes total sense. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love that. So, I mean, um, in regards to that, this is what Breeanna will be teaching in the masterclass, which will be in Psychic School Elite, which starts on March 17. So it's in a couple of weeks. There is early bird pricing until March 4th. Or so if you want to get in, have a look and get in quickly. It's for psychic mediums or intuitives or anyone that would like to really hone in and develop their intuitive abilities and get it to the point where you can use them or feel confident to use them on a professional level. And it's not just for psychic mediums. You can use this if you are in any type of light worker business, if you just want to hone in on your actual intuitive abilities. I'll also be helping you to align your business with your purpose. So that's why I've got Breeanna in to help as well. And with your own intuition and authenticity, because that's where a lot of people sort of struggle is because they're trying to, their business isn't working for them, but it's because they're modeling it off somebody else's business model and not off their own, intuition. So that is for me. If you would like to work with Breeanna, what are some ways that they can work with you and where is best to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram is probably where I'm most active. It's at rebel.ceo.podcast. And then you can go on my site if you want to work with me or just explore more about what I have to offer. And my website is breannakay.com. And then you can use the links because you'll end up on my photo website. But if you go to the links, then you can navigate to my education suite and my podcast page from there, or it's just /Rebel CEO. And I do spell my name funny. There are two E's, two N's, and K's, Kay.
So I'll pop her Instagram in the show notes as well. I can pop your website in the show notes too, so it's easy for them to find and easy to find Psychic School Elite. If you want to have a look in the show notes too. Is there any last words before we hop off? Is there anything else you wanted to add in?
Just that I'm really excited to be in the Psychic School Elite program, and I'm super excited for kind of the rendition on soul contracts that we're going to do for your students, and it just making it really personalized again to like what they are looking for and what they need help with. So thank you for having me in, and yeah, I just love you and I love all of the work that you're doing. So I
Oh,
can't
right
wait.
back at you. A big fan already. So thank you so much for jumping on. It's been such an honor, and we'll chat to you guys soon. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Little Psychics. I wanted to thank you for tuning into the Little Psychic podcast with June Mack. I am so grateful to have had you here. You can find me over at junemac.com or on all social media at Ms. June Mack. You can also keep up with me at thelittlepsychicschool.com and on IG at The Little Psychic School. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much if you could please subscribe, rate, review, and share. It's been an absolute privilege to be in your ears.